that is to disrupt thoughtfully, that is to change meaningfully, and that is to adopt abundantly crypto assets as we move forward into the years ahead.
Welcome to Beyond the Chair series. We're super excited to have Tyrone Ross Jr. as our guest for this episode. Beyond the Chair series is all about interviewing and bringing back the folks who went through our unique experience. It is strange to go through and be in a group of ex-operators and special guests who deeply understand and are passionate about our industry, and then to pitch them. And then to share their story about their company and yes, do capital raise, but also build contacts and mentorship from there. And so you're going to hear some of what happened with Tyrone Ross and his experience, but we also want to move beyond the chair, beyond the event, and hear from our founders who we selected and hear what has happened since then. And so that's why we have Beyond the Chair series. We're thankful that you have chosen to take a few moments of your day to listen in on this. I guarantee you this is going to bring a lot of value to every founder and those prospect funders as well, because Turnqey and Tyrone has a wonderful story to tell, an honest one at that too. And so let's go right into it. Tyrone, thanks for joining us. Tell us who you are, what your role is, and what's that elevator pitch for Turnqey Labs?
So my name is Tyrone Ross. I am the CEO and founder of Turnqey Labs, a crypto data company for wealth management. And I am also the principal and founder of 401 Financial, which is a registered investment advisor for the next gen investor. Born and raised in New Jersey to superhero parents, Tyrone Ross Sr. and Carol Ross, now residing in San Diego, California.
All right, let's keep rolling. What is the problem that you're solving? It's very important when we make our selections that our founders coming to our events actually solve a real problem. So can you share what that real problem is? And then what would you like to the group to know about how Turnqey solves that?
So Turnqey is solving a 12-year-old problem for myself primarily, which is just the simple understanding of crypto access, availability, and reliability of the data of clients held away crypto accounts. So basically, we act like the Plaid, if you will, and Plaid being that platform that you link your bank account when you go into a platform and you want to pay. That's essentially what Turnqey started out as, is your ability to just show your financial advisor your held away crypto accounts. And then we move into the role of like a custodian, like a Fidelity or Schwab, where we take all of that data in that account and we share it to the advisor. We show the positions, the balance, the cost basis. So we're simply trying to take the crypto-lease out of crypto and make it very similar to advisors where crypto can sit next to their stocks, bonds, and cash without them having to worry about all of the things that I know too well, which is public and private keys and blockchains and all these other things. So Turnqey is simply that connective tissue between the crypto ecosystem and traditional assets.
All right, let's keep things rolling. What was your journey like that led you to TFC? I know we have a common friend. I know that this industry is highly relational. And so typically word of mouth and referrals are very valuable. And so wrap that all in to talk about how you got to the founder's chair.
Yeah, so if you remember, we were connected by a fellow founder, and the same way VCs connect one another, I think founders do the same. And Shayna Sissel, who connected us, have very wonderful things to say about you. So it was a text message, and she shared some information. And to be frank, I didn't really have the need or want to talk to anyone at that moment. I was just trying to keep my company alive and put out the fires I was surrounded by. But our initial conversation was one that I thought was very thoughtful in your approach, in the sense that you didn't oversell. It was just, hey, I'd like to get to know you, what you're building. And we kind of left it there. If you remember, it wasn't a lot of an initial pitch or here's what I'm doing or whatever. It was feeling each other out. And then the subsequent conversations were really, really direct. You asked really awesome questions, really hard questions that I had answers to, but also challenged me to think deeper on some things. And what I was telling the other founders when we were in Detroit was it wasn't so cut and dry. It was a very, very thought out process. And ultimately, it ended up with you investing in Turnkey and 401 because you bought into my bigger vision of what it is that I'm trying to accomplish here. It's not easy to change a $144 trillion industry, but I think one of the things that I wanted to let you know is that one, I like investors who believe in me and what I'm looking to do. Two, those that aren't ghost writers, they write a check and then ghost you. And three, being highly selective in terms of the investors that come onto the cap table, not necessarily based on what they do or their background in fintech or crypto, but mainly for them to think in the eyes through the eyes of a visionary and put themselves in the passenger seat of what it is that I'm trying to do. And that aligned very well with you, obviously. And then, birds of a feather flock together. And then after being in Detroit, we brought on a lot more folks who think very similar to what we're trying to do here. And that is to disrupt thoughtfully, that is to change meaningfully, and that is to adopt abundantly crypto assets as we move forward into the years ahead.
Tyrone, I love the Ghostwriter line. I've used it multiple times. I always cite you for that. But at this stage in the season that we see companies, ghostwriters are really, really detrimental. They waste a lot of time. And so, although it's great to get capital, most of the founders we talk to at this stage, and certainly you're validating it, say that they want someone who will be willing to do more than just write a check, but also be there to support them, give them some guidance when needed, right? And so it's very valuable. And so I use that to almost let folks self-select because if they want to be a ghostwriter, that's wonderful. It just may not be the right fit for their role at the founder's chair. And our groups of funders coming to get more than just a capital, but they want thoughtful capital. So now let's kind of move into walk us through for the folks listening, your experience at TFC. Let me just kind of set the table a little bit. There could be listeners right now that are really excited and say, I want to get involved. I want to be a candidate for the next Founders Chair event. There could be some, though, that want to question and want to learn more about where their concerns and their doubts may lie, which is this just a pitch contest? Is this going to be a waste of my time? What if I don't get capital? Is it still worth it? So can it touch on all those things through your experience? Because I think the listeners are really wondering, is this real? And their curiosity exists, and some, as I mentioned, in a good way, and some in a skeptical way.
Well, I know you were just introduced and had the experience of working with Toby. And I sent Toby your way, and I can basically share what I shared with him. I think so. There's a couple things here, very similar to when they tell you don't learn a lot from success, you learn a lot from failures. I think it's easy to talk about, as I just mentioned before, those that wrote a check and kind of bought in. But I think the value that I learned was even the folks who didn't write a check gave me time post event. And that to me was invaluable because it challenged my assumptions. It made me think deeper about what I was building. And you learn a lot more from a no, in my opinion, than you do for a yes. And hopefully, as a founder, those no's are quick, so you can move on to the yeses. So I think the main thing from those that wrote a check was I believe in you, and here's why. Everyone provided their thesis as to why. And it worked out so well that I believe folks that was in another cohort, I believe in Philadelphia, even invested after James made an intro. So that butterfly effect, if you will, was something that was really awesome. That it wasn't even those in Detroit. It was those that were part of other cohorts that came on board. Again, the second thing is the thoughtfulness of the people who didn't write a check and it told you why, and even say, well, I am interested. And you had the chance to pitch them and they still didn't. Again, very valuable because you start to get feedback as to where you need to buffer up, or you just go, no, they're wrong. Right? Like it hardens your resolve. And I think that was really thoughtful. And it kind of puts the battery in your back, which we all need. You continue to need motivation when you're constantly getting smacked in the face daily, purposely. The last thing that I think was very important about the experience was you were surrounded by other founders that had different experiences, different backgrounds, different challenges, different successes. And what was really awesome was the investors and the founders pushing for migration, right? For partnership, for knowledge sharing. That is invaluable for a founder because that's what Silicon Valley in and of itself provides. And if you're not there, you don't have that. So you go outside and you don't have this ecosystem of people that are sitting at a coffee shop and you can raise $2 million after you order your mocha, right? Like, so it creates this community amongst founders and amongst investors where now you have a tribe. And I think this is a lonely pursuit. Your mother's not going to get it. Your wife is not going to get it. Your team is not going to get it. Only other founders who sit in the founder seat get it. Your investors aren't going to get it. So to have that community of other founders that you can, which wound are you licking this week, right? I think that's really valuable, and that's what is provided. And I don't think you can put any price on that.
Well said, Tyrone. I agree wholeheartedly that that line of what wound are you licking now is exactly where I start with a lot of conversations with founders that are looking to be a part of our events, because it's normalized now. Founders understand everyone's going through challenges. If they weren't going through challenges, then they've made it already, and that's great. But most in the season and business cycle that they're in are going through some challenges, which is what I think is that barrier of entry. And the higher it is, the more lucrative the business can be, the more rewarding it is for that entrepreneur, that founder. And so I love how you did that. Now, moving on to our next question, fill us in on your journey over the past year. What trials and tribulations have you faced, and how has the founder's chair played a role in any successes for overcoming some of those hardships?
Yeah. So this year has been 10 years all wrapped into one. So if you go from January till about July, end of July, right before going to Detroit, it was basically a game of survival. We were in a position where we needed funds. They were not coming in as quickly as we had hoped. I was going through litigation with a co-founder that I fired. There was some back and forth on when we were going to get revenue from a very large public company customer that we put a lot of work into. And to be frank, we were three people like full time on the company. Everything else was just kind of spot duty. So it was a skeleton crew, and we were just holding it together by the seams. And the way that I express that and I make that plain to people is I launched the company in May of 22. Before I got to Detroit, we had raised $800,000 over that time, right? After Detroit, we were 1.2 million. So we raised almost $2 million. So you have no idea what that liquidity means and what you're able to do. So since and before, literally 2 weeks or so before going to Detroit, we started a major project to build a platform which we're calling TAPE, Turnkey Asset Intelligence Platform. And we've been working on getting that done. And I look at what the funds have been able to provide of bringing on. I was able to hire a CTO, Versa, who's a medical doctor. She's a data scientist. You don't get those type of people without money. I don't care how nice you are, whatever else, you got to pay for that type of talent. I was able to bring on one of my old employees from my last company who's been helping me with investor relations. It allowed us to get off free trials and actually pay for subscriptions. So these are the things that people don't think about where you're just holding things together and you're putting your own money in where you're not getting a salary, right? I was able to finally take a little for myself. We had a bunch of vendors that we needed to pay. So it's just giving us breathing room to be able to stay afloat and fight. And at this point, so early in the company's life cycle, that's really what it is. Every day is day one. You're trying to fight off the dangers that come, but capital allows you to de-risk. And sometimes that is having more hands. Sometimes that is just, all right, where would we be if we could pay for the pro subscription of this and not the free tier? So it kind of took us not even kind of, it took us to a whole nother level of possibility and where we've gotten the platform and what we've been able to do. We've launched a newsletter that has been incredibly successful right off the bat, put out a lot of thought leadership. So we're able to assume the position that I knew that we were capable of doing, but we just didn't have the manpower and woman power. We didn't have the funds. And now we have the ability to, again, start to attract talent. We redid our database. Like there's just a lot of things that puts us in a really good position for 2026 and in the position, to be frank, to go raise more money, to raise the multi millions that we need to give us the runway, finally get folks on salary because we still are, being thoughtful and be frank, miserly with the funds that we have that to make them last. So since then, it's it's hard to express even for me personally, and I'll tell a very personal story here, which is it's just so funny how the world works. And I do get the benefit of being the son of a praying mama. The I want to say it was 2 days before I left to go to Detroit. We had a major payment that we had to make to finish a lawsuit again with my founder and a negotiation settlement it was very contentious. It was a really long time. We didn't have the money. And it was at this point we were still in negotiations of if we were going to have to pay it at all, or we just didn't know. And it was one of those things where it would go away and it would pop up. And I would think it was resolved and it would pop up. And it was, as far as I knew, it was done. And then it popped up. And our legal is kind of scrambling and we're scrambling. And the whole way to Detroit, I'm just like, this is this is not good. Right. And I'm like doing the math. I'm like, even if I shoot the lights out, the money is not going to make it in time, so on and so forth. But long story less long, there was another investor that was talking to decided to, he was going to wire as well. His money hit in time, and then it was just this cascade of funds coming in, and we were able to get that individual away from the company. We got all his equity back. It was a resounding success. I would have preferred not to have given him anything, but it was a resounding win. I got that off of me personally. That was weighing on me heavily, and in mounting evidence of what he had actually done to compromise. He tried to kill the company multiple times. So it was just it has been a hard year for me. Very, very hard personally. But the perseverance and the resilience and the grit that I saw that my father had going out of the house every day with no middle school education, not complaining ever, just going to get it done. And I take it very seriously that I have his name. And I try to live up to what I saw him do. Rain, sleet, hail, snow, tired, sleepy, exhausted, being called out of his name, being demeaned. And I'm like, well, I'm kind of dealing with a first class problem here. Right. So I kind of took that all into consideration. And I think when I was walking back to my hotel room after I had pitched, it was a release that I felt that I can't put into words. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about anything at that point. I left that room knowing that I was 1000% confident and right in what I was doing. I only needed one. I only needed one person. And I knew when I was standing up there and I was looking in the eyes of some of them people, I was like, I got them. And I could walk out of here and I'm okay with whatever it is. But at minimum, they're going to follow what I'm doing because I'm putting blood, sweat, and tears into this because it means that much to me. So it was a very cathartic thing, but it was also a moment where it was validation for all that I had been through, all that I endured. And this was coming off leaving my last company 3 years ago at the peak of my powers. We had just raised money. I had resigned and had gone through so much there. And then I start this company and then you just run into more trouble. But I stayed true to my integrity, my belief in who I am. And I think because of that, you put that energy into the world and you are rewarded. And I wasn't the money is the last thing. It's funny, you're dry, you're walking in this desert place, and you're like, man, I just need water. You just need water. And then you get the water and you're refreshed and you're grateful for it, but you go, I survived the wilderness. I survived the desert. So it wasn't even about the money at that point. It was just like, man, I made it through so much. Crypto winter, the bank that we were using going bankrupt, right? Like so many different things. And we survived it. And we survived it for that moment. Literally that moment of, all right, Tyrone, it's your time. So how do you communicate to this room full of people everything that you've been through without on your knees crying, telling them everything that you've been through? Channeling that and giving the conviction around your vision and what you see in your mind and spirit about what you built. And if you do that, if they can't get behind that, you don't want them. And that's what I felt when I got back to my hotel room. So it was more than just it was more than just a pitch for me. It was therapy.
I love the honesty that you're bringing. It's exactly what we are expecting from this episode from you. So, a quick note to the listeners: if you weren't leaning in before, you certainly are leaning in right now, hearing the journey that you've been on. It's not always an upward trajectory. Oftentimes, it's messy. And so, we understand and believe that there's more challenging days for founders than there are good days. And so when you have a good day, I think it's wonderful to celebrate to a certain level. And so can you share with us, because it's so important, what are those milestones that stand out in your mind so we can recognize them together? Because as I mentioned, there's oftentimes a lot more challenge than there are milestones that get accomplished.
Yeah, no, so many milestones to talk about since the event ended. As of December 1st, we got our first payment from Morningstar, so we are no longer a pre-revenue company, which is an awesome thing. Again, would be lying if I said I wasn't emotional. I cried after everything that we had been through. To now be post-revenue sets us up beautifully. Um, the other thing is we are under NDA with one of the largest wealth tech providers in the space, 3.7 trillion in assets, 800,000 monthly active users, 4,000 firms, to be um, their sole crypto data provider. It is unbelievable. And I don't know if you bear with me 1 second, I think I can I wanna read this and I posted it because it's incredibly important. So I have an insider at said company and they were aware of the integration and what was going on. And there was notes in their CRM about our team. If I can find it. Johan added a few notes about the discovery phase that I thought you would appreciate. Turnqey Labs is very responsive and they turn around file layout changes quicker than have ever seen an account provider do. Zero questions when we relayed RGL file requirements, which is very rare, since that is a difficult file to match blank's requirements. And there's no higher praise than that, right? And everyone leaned in there and got that done. So we were in the discovery phase now. So now we're in the pre-production phase. And when this news is released, oh boy, is it going to shake the tables, and I can't wait. So we're really excited about that. That is monumental. It's a dream partnership. It's a dream customer. I was able to hire an incredibly wicked smart CTO to our team, again, who she just went to medical school just because she was bored. So she's an MD. She's a data scientist. She has a great product background. She helped us move the needle. Was able to make another key hire with one of my former employees at my last company, who's just literally one of those drop on an island employees. You just drop them on an island and they get things done, right? And he's just been moving the needle in all areas. So we were able to expand the team, which is nice. We were able to improve our database, which is nice. And now we can really focus on increasing our revenue going into year end. And to that point, I think the biggest milestone period is that we are going to end December 31st of this year alive. And if you would have asked me that January 1 of this year, I wouldn't have been so certain. but I can tell you right now that we will be alive on December 31st, and we are well positioned in 2026 to put hand and foot to behind. So I'm excited about that.
All right, Tyrone, we've had an amazing conversation. I wish we could do this. I know we could do this for a lot longer, but we do have to have a wrap up to this at some point. And so I'm going to give you the final word of any insights or any wisdom you want to share with our listeners.
It's very important. And I mentioned this briefly um, when I believe I was at the event, or I may have said it by email, but I definitely want to say this on video because it's probably the most important part of what I'm going to say. The hardest thing to do that I've learned at every stage in my life is to embrace the unknown. And embracing the unknown is putting your hopes, dreams, aspirations, failures, background, socioeconomic status, height, religion, everything into the hands of people that you've never met. And sometimes that is not easy to do. And I cannot impress upon the group and anyone listening enough. The experience that I've had with you all when I was there was extremely comforting. You were kind, you were thoughtful, you were patient. You fostered an energy and a sense of community of people that you had never met before. That was the first time I had ever done something like that because I love to raise money and pitch. So I never felt like I needed to do anything like that. And to be frank, I didn't know what to expect, but it changed my mind on that type of thing. But I truly believe in the value of human connection and the ability to connect people to their destiny. And knowing what I was going through, the last thing I needed at that moment was for anybody or any group of people that I didn't meet to treat me in a way that would dig their finger in the wound of what I was experiencing. And you all were nothing but kind. You were so thoughtful. You were bubbly. You were positive. You were constructive. And it was, I mean, from the time you got there, the welcome package, and a lot of folks just do that because they're like, all right, now we can knock the edge off. We can go focus on other things. But from the time you got there, from the time I left, I felt supported. I felt like I was amongst family. And again, no amount of money can amount to that. Nothing can replace the human connections to somebody looking in your eyes and letting you know that you are welcome, that you are cared for, and they're really invested in your outcome. So I'm grateful to both of you. I'm grateful for anybody that has anything to do that I didn't meet to set that up. And I think that is why you guys are going to be a major part of my journey and my experience here. And it will never, ever, I promise you, it will never be about the money. It'll be about the experience that I had and where I was in my life at that moment and how you guys kind of huddled around me and made me feel like I was seen. And I will always work very hard to let you know I'm grateful. And boy, am I going to work my ass off to prove it. So I'm really grateful for the experience. You guys were awesome.
Tyrone, thank you for pointing that out. Again, let me just kind of put a pin in that piece with one thought, right? So our team and what I'm most proud of is when you bring 20 to 30 people in and you want to get hyper organic, honest conversation, authentic conversation, it's very hard when you got 20 to 30 people together in a room for the full day and a half and collaborating together when maybe they've never even had a conversation before. So our team really does take every thoughtful approach to try to make the environment something safe, something where every voice is valued, and something that speaks to insights that they've experienced and bringing it out in a good way. A warm way is what I was told by a few founders. So thank you for sharing that. I think our team does an incredible job, and we think there's more spaces, more places that we can go to take this environment to. So that more founders can connect meaningfully with ex-operators and possible investors. Now, a quick note before I do wrap up, Tyrone is a great contact. You understand and see his insights are invaluable. I encourage you to reach out to him, connect with him. He loves reaching out to people who want to see positive change in our industry, positive outcomes for families and businesses. And so please reach out to him and connect. He's very accessible. And so, Tyrone, thank you so much for spending the time with us. And that concludes our Beyond the Chair episode.